Alright, good morning everybody. We're down here in the dark matter lab, coming back to our desk. Got quite a bit done. Got the legs all machined for the grooves that hold the frame. I've actually gone ahead and finish cut some of the frame members, and I went ahead and machined all the initial frame parts and put a bull nose on them, mitered them, and I've dry fitted it. Right now what I'm doing is I've marked out where the grooves go that are going to receive the tongue groove joint for the sides. The groove's going to run along the top, down all three sides. Then I'll go through and rabbet the ends of these. One of the problems that we're running into with this project is a lot of the wood is kind of decrepit and falls apart. I ended up having to cut the edge off of this board after I cut it to width because it had a crack in the grain. Actually, the crack was right here, and I added a new piece on it. However, now I'm noticing, due to the weather and the tension in the board, that the board is very, very flat. It has over a 1/16 of an inch of cut to it on the one corner. This board is, I think it's 5/8 of an inch thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually plane down the face of this because I want it to be flat. The board's going to end up being quite a bit thinner. However, since it's the inside of this panel over here, we're not going to be able to tell that it's thinner. And I'm not even going to bother flattening it out. I'm only going to flatten it out on this side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it through the planer, take that hump out of it, and I'm going to make sure that when I run all my rabbeting operations that I use this face to create the thickness of this tongue, and then any deviation will fall on the back where you can't see it. So I've got the router table all set up. I'm using a 1/4 inch bit, cutting from underneath. I have my part marked out. I'm not going to use the pencil marks to try to reference my cuts. They're simply here to try to arrange what surface that I'm going to cut into so I don't mistakenly put the board in upside down. I also don't want this groove to continue out through the end. So on the back side I've marked roughly where I want it to start, and on the fence I've got a couple of index lines that indicate the extents of the cut. So I'm going to plunge this part in to start the cut, and I'm going to predictably start right where that line is, and I'm going to stop again where the other line is, and that's going to limit the end of my dado. So let's cut these up. Alright, let's cut the dados for the dust panels. like to make these feather boards out of a scrap of wood. I learned how to do this a long time ago. Rather than purchasing a $12 or $15 little feather board made out of plastic, these are made by making alternating cuts from each direction, and it allows the bottom of this to flex. And you can adjust the amount of tension either by adding more cuts or increasing the length where the cut stops, depending on whether you're using a heavier cutter. For this, I got a pretty lightweight one, so I'm going to put it right in here. Just push down a little bit, get a little bit of spring pressure there. Get the other side started. Kind of limited amount of room to fit clamps in here. And I'm just pushing that down until I see the gaps and the saw curves close up a little bit. And I can tilt it a little bit one way or another. But right about there, I got an even compression in these saw curves, and it holds that piece down pretty nicely against the table. Give me better accuracy and less likely that the piece will wander as it's cutting. Alright, so it looks like we got most of the frame jointed out and ready for a quick dry fit. Still have to make some of the side pieces that close the drawers, but this is the majority of the complex joinery, so I'm going to see if it'll fit together. Went together really nice. Very happy. It almost doesn't even need glue.